Welcome to Creepy, the best horror storyteller on YouTube.
Part 1. I never believed in ghosts until I stayed at Whispering Pines, a secluded cabin in the woods of Vermont. It was supposed to be a relaxing getaway with my boyfriend, Jake, but it turned out to be the most terrifying experience of my life. We found the cabin on Airbnb, advertised as a cozy and romantic retreat with a fireplace, a hot tub, and a stunning view of the mountains. The host, a friendly old lady named Mrs. Perkins, assured us that we would have the place to ourselves, and that she would only be a phone call away if we needed anything. She also warned us that the cabin was very old and had some quirks, such as creaky floorboards, drafty windows, and a faulty lock on the back door. She said it was part of the charm and that we shouldn't worry about anything. We arrived at the cabin on a Friday evening, after a long drive from Boston. The cabin looked exactly like the pictures, except for the fact that it was surrounded by a thick layer of snow and ice. It was freezing cold, but we were eager to get inside and warm up by the fire. We grabbed our bags and headed to the front door, which had a key box with a code that Mrs. Perkins had given us. We opened the door and stepped into the cabin, expecting to find a cozy and welcoming atmosphere. Instead, we were greeted by a blast of cold air and a musty smell. The cabin was dark and silent, except for the sound of the wind howling outside. We looked around and saw that the cabin was furnished with old and worn-out furniture, covered with dust and cobwebs. The walls were decorated with faded paintings and photographs, some of them showing a smiling family that we assumed was Mrs. Perkins and her relatives. The fireplace was empty and cold, and the hot tub was covered with a tarp. The only source of light was a dim lamp on a table, next to a phone and a guest book. "Wow, this place is creepy," Jake said, shivering. "Maybe it just needs some cleaning and heating," I said, trying to be optimistic. "Let's turn on the lights and the fire and see if it gets better." We walked around the cabin, looking for the light switches and the thermostat. We found them, but they didn't work. We tried the phone, but it was dead. We checked the guest book, but it was blank. We realized that we had no electricity, no heat, and no way to contact anyone. "Great, just great," Jake said, frustrated. "What are we supposed to do now?" "Maybe there's a fuse box or a generator somewhere," I said, hoping for a solution. "Let's look outside and see if we can find anything." We put on our coats and boots and went outside, leaving our bags inside the cabin. We walked around the property, looking for any signs of power or communication. We saw a shed, a well, and a woodpile, but nothing else. The cabin was isolated from the rest of the world, with no neighbors, no roads, and no cell phone reception. The only thing we could hear was the wind and the sound of our own footsteps on the snow. We decided to go back inside and wait for Mrs. Perkins to call us. Maybe she had forgotten to turn on the power or the phone, and she would realize her mistake and fix it. Maybe she would come by and check on us, or send someone to help us. Maybe everything would be fine. We returned to the cabin and locked the front door behind us. We decided to make the best of the situation and try to enjoy our stay. We lit some candles and made a fire in the fireplace, using the wood from the woodpile. We opened a bottle of wine and toasted to our anniversary, which was the reason why we had booked the cabin in the first place. We cuddled on the couch and kissed, trying to forget about our problems and focus on each other. We were about to move to the bedroom when we heard a loud bang from the back of the cabin. It sounded like someone had slammed the back door. "What was that?" I asked, startled. "Probably just the wind," Jake said, reassuring me. "Remember, Mrs. Perkins said the lock was faulty. Maybe it came loose and the door swung open. Should we check it?" I asked, feeling uneasy. Nah, it's fine. Let's just ignore it and go to bed, Jake said, pulling me closer. We got up and walked to the bedroom, which was at the end of a long hallway. We passed by the bathroom, the kitchen, and a spare room, which had a sign that said "Do not enter." We wondered what was inside, but we didn't dare to open it. We reached the bedroom and closed the door behind us. We undressed and got into bed, hoping to get some sleep and forget about the night. We were wrong. We didn't know it then, but that was the beginning of the haunting of Whispering Pines, our paranormal Airbnb nightmare. Part 2. We fell asleep in each other's arms, unaware of the horrors that awaited us. We didn't hear the footsteps in the hallway, the whispers in the dark, or the scratching on the door. We didn't see the shadows moving across the walls, the eyes staring at us from the windows, or the figures standing over our bed. We didn't feel the cold breath on our necks, the fingers touching our skin, or the teeth biting our flesh. We woke up to a loud scream, followed by a thud. It was Jake. He had jumped out of bed, clutching his chest, as if he had a heart attack. He was pale and sweaty, and his eyes were wide with terror. "What's wrong? What happened?" I asked, alarmed. He pointed at the ceiling, where I saw a large blood stain dripping onto the bed. It looked like someone had been stabbed or shot above us, and the blood had seeped through the floorboards. "Jesus Christ, what is that?" I gasped, horrified. I don't know, Jake stammered, shaking. I had a nightmare, a terrible nightmare. I saw them all. They were here, they were in the room. They were killing us. Who? Who were they? I asked, confused. The family in the pictures. Mrs. Perkins and her relatives. They were ghosts, they were angry ghosts. They said we shouldn't be here, we shouldn't have come. They said this was their home, their sacred home. They said they would make us pay, they would make us suffer. They said they would never let us go, never let us go. He broke down and sobbed, unable to speak anymore. I tried to calm him down, to tell him it was just a bad dream, that nothing was real, that we were safe. But I knew he was telling the truth. I knew he had seen something that I hadn't. I knew we were in danger. I grabbed my phone and checked the time. It was 3 a.m., the witching hour. I tried to call Mrs. Perkins, but there was no signal. I tried to call 911, but there was no signal. I tried to call anyone, but there was no signal. We were trapped, we were alone, we were doomed. I got out of bed and put on my clothes. I told Jake to do the same. I said we had to get out of the cabin, we had to get to the car, we had to get away from this place. He nodded and followed me, still trembling. We grabbed our coats and keys and headed to the front door. We opened it and stepped outside, hoping to find a way out. We were wrong. We didn't find a way out. We found a nightmare. The cabin was surrounded by a wall of fire, burning and crackling. The flames were high and bright, blocking our escape. The snow and ice had melted, leaving a pool of water and mud. The wind had stopped, leaving a silence and a smell of smoke. The sky was dark and red, like blood. We looked around and saw that the fire was not natural. It was not caused by lightning or a spark. It was caused by something else. Something evil. We saw them all. The family in the pictures. Mrs. Perkins and her relatives. They were there, they were outside. They were not ghosts, they were not angry ghosts. They were demons, they were evil demons. They had taken over the cabin, they had taken over the land. They had set the fire, they had trapped us. They had come for us, they had come to kill us. They were everywhere, they were everywhere. They were in the shed, in the well, in the woodpile. They were on the roof, on the porch, on the lawn. They were behind the trees, behind the rocks, behind the fire. They were coming closer, they were coming faster. They were laughing, they were screaming, they were chanting. They said we shouldn't be here, we shouldn't have come. They said this was their home, their sacred home. They said they would make us pay, they would make us suffer. They said they would never let us go, never let us go. They were right. We didn't have a chance, we didn't have a choice. We couldn't run, we couldn't hide, we couldn't fight. We could only watch, we could only wait, we could only die. We held each other, we hugged each other, we kissed each other. We said we loved each other, we said we were sorry, we said goodbye. We closed our eyes, we opened our mouths, we screamed. We screamed as the fire reached us, as the demons grabbed us, as the pain tore us. We screamed as we burned, as we bled, as we died. We screamed as we became part of the haunting of Whispering Pines, our paranormal Airbnb nightmare.
Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe for more similar horror stories.